The number one asset class of 2026 and beyond is not the same old same. Stop picking the wrong stocks and the wrong items. We're going to go into a 7-minute clip that comes from my yearly report where I use macroeconomic analysis from some of the brightest minds in the world, summarizing their research, where we also combine that with technical analysis, using the sacred geometry of the charts and the patterns to understand price ranges and timing, and financial astrology. And we put it all together with an understanding of risk management to do that the best we can with our portfolios for high probability outcomes. So if you're interested in that, the link is down below. But let's dive into the 7-minute section for free that I've pulled out of this to let you know what the number one asset class in 2026 and 2027 and 2028 and 2029 and 2030 and 2031 and 2032 will be. 7 minutes, 7 years. Let's dive into it. All right. So we are in a fourth turning, okay? And this is supposed to go into the 2030s, wrapping up about that. I've been talking about this pretty much since I opened my astrology channel, targeting 2033 or the end of 2032 to be the big crisis inflection point where we go into a new system. Okay, so that's still the underlying thesis behind all the work and all the videos you see and will continue to see on my channel until we get into the 2030s. All right. And so historically, each of these fourth turnings involve either a war or existential crisis, like the American Revolution or the Civil War, all right, or World War II. Okay, America had, from an astrological perspective, what's called a Pluto return in 2022. Okay, and you've seen how politically divided America has gotten between the right and the left, and the haves and the have-nots. That disparity is only continuing. Okay, then not only that, you can see what's happened not only with the United States and Russia and the Ukraine scenario, but then there's this disparity between the United States and China. Then you have Russia backing China. You have the BRICS nations who are very interested in precious metals and commodities, which are going up. You have Africa trying to kick France out because Africa holds a bunch of precious metals, but France and a lot of those colonial powers don't want to let go of those metals. So basically the whole world stage is set for a large conflict in which nations are trying to what? Maintain their survival, okay? So how does investment go in such a time period? The key words to look up are called fiscal dominance. Those are the fundamental words to describe what investing is like. Monetary policy, which is government's policy, supports fiscal dominance. And what that means is deficit monetization and financial repression. The average person doesn't get to go spend a bunch of money, basically, is what that means. There's increased trade protectionism, aka tariffs. You're hearing all that. It's not just going to be the United States. The EU's trying to do it too. The whole world is going to be trying to do that too. Declining fertility, falling demographics, declining political cooperation, and then wealth inequality. All right. And so the government getting more and more involved in markets is a thing. Why do you think Trump is always on Twitter talking about Jerome Powell's an idiot? The Fed needs to drop rates. You will see all governments getting more involved in markets, which is going to do what? I've been talking about this for years. It's going to scare people out of markets and into things like precious metals and real estate. What has the real estate market done since I started my channel years ago? You can go look. There's a video about bricks and about gold being $4,000. Very old videos, right? That's why some of you guys are here. You've seen me be right over the years. And the thesis continues, right? And we tweak it and we fine tune it as the years go by because we're living through it. Okay? So you guys have to understand that sovereign debts, public debt, and the size of government, it's all going to grow. And they are not going to pay this debt back until this thing explodes in the 2030s. So you need to know how to invest during that time period. That's why you keep buying this report. If you bought it in the past, or if you're new here, that's what that is what we're investing during. Okay? And there will be a United States financial crisis. And 2026 is going to be one of the panic years that trigger and push us deeper into this fourth turning. You have to wrap your head around this before I go into the rest of this presentation. Okay? And these are the types of things that will exacerbate the income and the wealth inequality. And unfortunately, historically, is one of the solutions to this is war, sending your children to fight, whether it's internally or externally. Unfortunately, now during the cycle, we have both scenarios in which people want to fight internally and externally. And then you've got the Neptune and Aries story, which I've been talking about for years, which talks about inflation. So as an investor, you need to be aware of all of this and how that affects our investment thesis and the investment themes. Okay, so now let me talk about some of the different investment themes that you should be aware of throughout 2026 so that you invest accordingly and appropriately. Done a lot of work and a lot of research to come up with these themes, and in my opinion, they're the most probable scenarios that we are dealing with in the economy. Then we're going to overlay that with financial astrology, see how the transits will affect these themes. All right. So we got a lot to dive in here and to unpack. So stick with me. Theme number one is commodities, commodities, commodities as an inflation hedge and a risk hedge. It serves two purposes. So it's double bullish, and we got to start there first. Okay. And so tangible assets, things you can hold and own. You guys have heard me talking about this since Uranus has been in Taurus, if you've been watching me for the past couple of years. Tangible assets are going to be resilient no matter what's happening with the supply chain and no matter what's happening geopolitically, because everyone wants to rebuild their nations and they need metals and industry to do so. Okay? So precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, energy resources like oil, natural gas, and critical minerals like copper and lithium will be portfolio stabilizers during 2026 and throughout the rest of the decade until this fourth turning is over. Okay? And so these will help both from inflationary pressures and all the uncertainty in terms of, is the US going to win? Which country's going to win? I don't know. What's going to happen with inflation? Doesn't matter. Buy gold. Like, that's going to work. All right. So these are things that we can rely on, knowing that the debt thresholds throughout these countries are just going to expand, and that's only going to make gold and silver more attractive. Okay. And so no matter how you want to build your portfolio, whether you're bullish crypto or whether you think someone's being too extreme on the bearish side of things and you think US equities will be fine, you should still have commodities in your portfolio as a hedge against inflation and the uncertainty that is inherent in the system and very likely to come through. All right. So that's how powerful the commodities theme is for 2026. All right. So AI infrastructure, you all know that's coming. That requires more copper. Right? If the Fed is easing or injecting liquidity into the system, right, then that means the prices, the valuations of everything's going to go up. So that boosts commodities there as well, right? Geopolitical influences, you have the central banks buying more gold, and you have the BRICS nations who are interested in commodities. So they're going to be buying more, whether you're buying more or not. They will be buying more because they're fighting for their survival, and they are planning to let go of US dollars because they're fighting for their survival. Understand? So no matter how you want to spin it, no matter how you want to look at it, whether you like them or not, commodities, 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 no matter what your strategy is, you should have a percentage of commodities in your portfolio. So whether or not you want to grab this yearly report, now you can see why I wanted to share that 7 minutes with you guys, because the topics in it are so important, particularly if you live in the Western world or just in modern day society or life in general. It's important to know the importance of commodities, either from the protective side or from the bullish side of things for your portfolio. Because if you don't have a growing portfolio, you're probably not going to have the funds that you need unless you're waiting around for UBI or stimulus or that type of income, if that's going to help. Because we're all dealing with inflation that's coming for us all. All right, so you can build your portfolio that way if you like, or if you're interested in the sectors that I like, in addition to commodities. If you want to know what drilling and mining companies I like that are digging the steel and the copper and the gold out of the ground, and why I like them, and what time I like them, including financial astrology aspects and with specific dates, and what I think those aspects will do to the market and particular assets, either pushing them up or down, how I think the Fed is going to react, macroeconomic policy, and all of that. If you want the whole hour plus video, along with the 10-page PDF that include the stocks, the international ETFs, if you don't want to invest in the US, whether that's India or Poland or some of these other parts of the world that I've looked at and seem bullish to me, you can choose those assets and build your own portfolio with those, with the research that I've done. And you can add that to your research as well, if that completely makes sense for you. And as always, be well, be safe, keep negative influences away, keep positive vibrations and things that serve you, near you and around you. Take care of yourselves. Best of health, luck, success, and prosperity to you and your loved ones. Peace.